I guess my first question is kind of about your approaches to the characters that you played, which I guess are kind of different, because I know that Leonie Marianne is kind of a composite of several characters who were there in the day, whereas John, you were able to actually talk to, you know, the man that you were portraying. How did you guys go about creating these characters in those different ways?
Well, for me, when I read the screenplay, I wouldn't have been able to point out to you which one of the characters was real and which one was invented. So, and that's, you know, a great start. So I don't know how my approach would have been different if I had been able to meet the real Marianne. Yeah. For me, it was just about learning about that profession, about translating, and then doing as much research as possible about that, the day and everything that leading up to it, and also afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I talked a lot to Jeff, got his story, listened to his memories. So it was such a good resource. Sometimes when you play people who exist, the memories can be a bit fuzzy or not very helpful. This wasn't the case with Jeff. It was very clear. I mean, in fact, his story is what inspired Tim and Moritz to write this film. They had ideas about telling the events in Munich on that day from a few different angles, but once they spoke to Jeffrey, they realized this was the way to do it. Yeah.
And one thing I really love about this film is it's set in this, you know, really small, you know, intense sort of control room, but the camera is so frenetic, you know, it's kind of everywhere. How much work kind of went into, you know, preparing, you know, these almost like a ballet between the camera and the actor, and, you know, making sure that you didn't lose the spontaneity of the performances?
Not much. I mean, we had a great camera crew, and Marcus, our DP, he really guided them. So they, in so many ways, there was a couple times where we would do a special shot, mainly if it was like on my eyes because the glasses, where we would have to get it very specific to the light. But when it was even medium, or certainly when it was wide, it was very loose, and they really rolled with us. They gave us space to do our dance, and then they kind of followed along with us. But we were definitely, more so than other films, working in tandem with the camera department.
Yeah. And you know, so often you see films that say, you know, this is a big ensemble cast, but then inevitably there's one person who is kind of the main character, and there's an ensemble around them. But this really is an ensemble, right down to, you know, I think your background characters were there the entire time. What was that like? And I guess it's almost like theatre in a way, like you're there together every day.
Yeah, it's wonderful, because as you said, usually, you know, people say this is an ensemble film, but then it's, you know, an A-list and everyone else supports them. And there's a world in which that could have happened here, and I think that is down to every actor stepping onto set, being really willing to play together, and that's fun. That's electric. You want to be in that room. It's also a bit scary because when everyone's very good, you also have to step up your game. But
but I think usually when you have that inspires people down the line, and everyone sort of gives it their best. But yeah, it was very unique, theatrical in a way, and communal. So it was that doesn't happen often in films. So it was a cool experience.
And Tim also did make sure to always give everyone the time they needed, no matter how big or small their part was. If someone had a question about who am I actually calling in that moment, even if it was in the background, that he would take the time to answer that question, and that is special.
Yeah, and I think that comes through on screen. It's a very special film. Thank you both for your time, and best of luck with the release.
Thank you very much.